Hey, good morning, Facebook. This is Josh Keck. Someone had asked me about equalization payments and whether or not I could kind of give a better explanation of them. So I'm going to try before I go into work here to take a quick video. I want to talk about what equalization is, how it works, and why it's critical. So when you approve a levy, an excess levy, they typically last for 5 years, and they don't have to. They can last for 2 years. Generally speaking, they're for 5 years because government entities like to have secure financing. And all right, so you've got a 5-year time frame just on the levy when money is collected. Before the money is collected, before the levy goes into effect, it's got to be approved by the voters. And so it's got to be approved at a primary or a general election before it can go into effect. And then before that can happen, before it goes to you, it has to be approved by the Board of Education or the county commissioners or a municipality. It's got to be approved by the levying body. All right. So there's a potential for a significant amount of time between when that levying body meets to approve the ballot and when the last dollar collected from that levy is received. And so if we just look at the levy that we're in right now, which was passed in 2018, it's a 5-year levy. It didn't go into effect until 2030, and it won't expire until June 30th, 2025. We still have 1 more year of this levy. So approved in 2018 by you, but actually probably approved by the Board of Education in 2017. So approved by the Board of Education in 2017, approved by you in 2018, goes into effect 2020, runs all the way to 2025. You've got a potential there for 8 years between when it was conceived and when the last dollar is collected. 8 years. Now, why is this time frame so important? Well, it's important because when that levy is conceived by the boards, they have to provide a listing or an explanation of where do they want this money to go? How much are they going to collect? And where is it going to go? Now, state code only says you have to give a total dollar amount, but the Supreme Court says you should provide sufficient detail for each of your funding priorities as well. And you have to provide dollar values, not just percentages. I can't just say a percentage. I have to give dollar values of how much money I expect to collect. And those dollar values are estimates. So back in 2017, the boards estimated based on the total assessed value of all property in Cabell County multiplied by the tax rate that they're allowed to do, the maximum they're allowed, and then divided up into their funding priorities. That was then put in front of you in 2018 to be approved, and then it went into effect in 2020, and it is still in effect. Okay, so those dollar amounts that are on the ballot, those are not cold, hard numbers. They are estimates. And the cold, hard numbers are what actually gets received over the 5-year lifespan of the levy. And what actually gets received is higher, generally, than what was estimated. We receive more money, not because the tax rate increased, but because the assessed value of all property, class 2, 3, and 4 properties have increased over time. All the way from 2017 to now, it's a significant amount of increase. From 2017 to today, it's been about 25% increase. It's not a small amount of increase. So where does equalization come in? Equalization comes in when historically the parks and the libraries had the special acts of the legislature that created these funding mechanisms by which we were to receive a percentage of the property values on the Board of Education's excess levy, a percentage. So we took that percentage and we estimated how much money that is back in 2017. We put that in front of you in 2018. And then in 2020, we started collecting that money. Well, in 2020, we are already collecting more than what we estimated. And so in 2020, when we got at the end of that time frame, we go back and we look, the estimate versus actual amount collected. What's the difference? Okay, this difference amount of money that we collected and above of the estimate, let's give that over to the parks and the libraries based on what their percentages say they should be receiving. And that's an equalization payment where you true up the difference between the estimate and the actual. All right, and that equalization payment would then be in year 2 and year 3, and then, well, we didn't get one in year 4. We're in year 4 right now. We didn't get one because the Supreme Court came through and said, that special act funding is unconstitutional. So year 4, we're not getting one. And then year 5, which begins on July 1st, we will not receive another equalization payment then either. So in our last meeting at the park board, we approved a budget that had about $120,000 less funding in it for year 5 of this excess levy or for the next fiscal year, because we're not getting equalization payments. For the library, I think it's closer to $370,000 that they're not receiving on year 5 of the excess levy. So it's not a small amount of money. Again, why it's so critical for your decision in the May ballot, in the upcoming May primary, is we have another situation where the Board of Education, they're already not paying equalization payments because they no longer have to, and we expect that they will continue to not make equalization payments in the upcoming excess levy. And that upcoming excess levy will run from 2025 to 2030. It doesn't go into effect right away. We've still got one more year on the levy we're in. So it'll run all the way to 2030. The next time that you will get a chance to approve a different version of this levy, assuming it passes, is in 2028 if they want to be 2 years ahead, or in 2030 if they want to approve it or try to approve it right before it expires. So we will be, if it's approved in May, we're locked in. We're locked in. And we can assume that we're not going to get any equalization payments over that time frame. Why this is so important is because our expenses are going to continue to increase year over year over year. We're going to need to continue to spend more on materials and our employees and health benefits and operating costs, and we're not going to receive more money to compensate for that. Personally, I don't see that as a proper way to fund government entities. That's why we always received money based on a percentage and not a fixed dollar amount. It puts us in a situation where part of our budgets are now flat, and they will be all the way to 2030. I don't like that personally. And I don't, that's why I'm not voting for the levy personally, because I don't believe in flat budgets. I don't think that's a way to fund any government entity, personally. All right. So how do we fix that? If the May levy passes, we can't fix that. The Board of Education could voluntarily make equalization payments, but they're already not doing it, so there's no expectation that they would volunteer to do it in the future. If the May levy does not pass, it can be ran again in November. To fix this issue of equalization for a November levy, assuming all the decision makers were to agree to do this, to fix that situation, you would need to have a separate ballot. And what that separate ballot would need to have is a catch-all clause that says any money collected above these estimated amounts will go to the libraries for the library's separate ballot. Any monies collected in excess of the estimate will go to support the park district on a park ballot. Any monies collected in excess of the estimate will go to support the schools on the schools ballot. And so you structure this in a way you have 3 separate ballots. You have catch-all clauses on each of those ballots. Those catch-all clauses empower you as the voter to approve any monies collected in excess will go to support those entities individually and distinctly. And if it's 3 separate ballots, then you'll be in a position where you could say, I want to vote yes for schools. I want to vote no for parks and libraries. I want to vote yes, yes, and yes. I want to vote no, no, and no. It'll be 3 different votes that you'll have to make for each of the entities. And who sponsors it is not something I'm going to get into in this video. I've already taken way too much time. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments. But I just wanted to make sure you understood why equalization is so important. So hopefully I did that justice. Thank you for taking the time.